Welcome to the CU Scoop. I'm your host, Philip Dukes, aka DukesTheScoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at DukesTheScoop. And be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. While you're here, go check out that description. When you see the description, go find out how to become a member. Not just a subscriber, become a member. Help support the channel and help me to bring you more of this style of content. All right, guys. The Colorado Buffaloes are going crazy in the portal, as I said they would. They've already started with two commitments, one being that of a 6'5", 190-pound receiver by the name of Sincere Brown. Shout out to Sincere Brown. Played in South Florida. Was on the same roster as Jimmy Horn at one time. Didn't really get to play a lot. Then he goes to Campbell, sits out, and last year has his breakout season. Incredible guy. And it says a lot about what Colorado is trying to do at the wide receiver position. Right now, let me pull up a few notes on Sincere. What I like about this signing is it tells you where Colorado is looking to be as far as one of the top teams in the country. There are so many people who felt like Colorado had enough at wide receiver already. The wide receiver room was done. You got guys there, and they do. There's a ton of talent there. I think when you look at like guys like Omarion Miller, how they'll use Draylon Miller, when you look at some of the young guys that they have, there's so much for them to like in Colorado already. But I'm going to continue to say this. Colorado isn't upgrading their top graded, which is they're trying to bring in guys to give their top guys competition. Before, they wanted just to upgrade the roster so you had players. You wanted to make sure that everybody on the team could play at this level. Now you want to make sure you want your best guy today. You want to recruit so well that your best guy could end up being your worst guy. And not to say that, they don't believe in Omarion Miller or they don't believe in the guys that they brought in. I think they like Joseph Williams. I think they like Omarion Miller. They like Cam Michael. I think they love what they have there. But they want to get to a point where their roster is so loaded that they're building a championship roster this year. And one of the steps to get there is to bring in a 6'5" wide receiver by the name of Sincere Brown. Last year at Campbell, played with caught passes from two different quarterbacks. He had 61 catches for 1,000 yards, 1,028 yards to be exact. Average of 16.9 yards a catch, 17 yards a catch. His long was 74 yards. And 12 touchdowns. When you look at who he did it against, Liberty was probably one of his best, one of the teams that he had the most competition from last year, who had one of the better rosters. And he had 5 for 126 against Liberty and a 74-yard touchdown. When you look at how they played, Elon, they lost that game 50-27. He had 7 for 135 and 2 tuds. North Carolina A&T 5 catches for 150 and 2 tuds. He's the type of guy that once he gets going, it's hard to stop him. Campbell did play up some last year, so they didn't have the most success as a team. But it was easy to see that he was the best player on the field for the majority of those games. And I wanted to get down to some of his PFF grading and get down into how he fits this roster. Now, when you have a 6'5" wide receiver and 190 pounds, everybody thinks deep threat. When you look at his stats, you think deep threat. And yes, he is a deep threat. I don't want anybody to get that confused. He's somebody who can win the 50-50 ball. He's somebody who can he can beat you with his long speed. He's a strider. Someone who makes tough contested catches. Okay. When you dig into his stats, yes, he's that receiver. But he's also, where he's the best at is the intermediate routes. Now, he's good at short routes. He caught screens and the slants, and he took a lot of those slants to the crib. When you look at his yardage after catch, I think he had right around 600 yards after the catch last year. So about 60% of his yardage, at a total of 1,000 yards, were after he made the catch. But the intermediate is where he was the absolute best at. So last year, he had, hold on, let me pull this up right quick. Let me get this exactly for you. Last year, he had 20 opportunities down the field, over 20 yards. He only caught 5 of them. Now, some of that's on the quarterback, some of that's on him. He only had 1 drop in those situations, but he had 20 catches, and he only had 5 opportunities. He had 8 catches, 8 drops on the season. 6 of those were on short passes, contested passes. Majority of them where you got a cornerback in your hip, and they make a play on a contested catch. So that's where, but he still got the drop because some of those catches he could have made. Where he was the absolute best, where I think he's going to really help Colorado, is intermediate from 10 yards to 19 yards. He was amazing. He graded out at about 97.9 on PFF. He had 27 opportunities at 10 to 19 yards, averaging a first down. On catches where the ball traveled past 10 yards, he caught 19 out of 27. That's incredible. Only had 1 drop of those 27 chances. He only had 1 drop. Incredible. And 6 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns from 10 to 19 yards. So there's a lot in that stat that's telling you, 1, he's getting down the field in a hurry. 2, you didn't have the best pass protection. So he was the guy that you looked to when you needed a big play. A good number of those came on 3rd down. Quarterback under pressure, find Sincere. Sincere is making a play. I think that's so important for a team like Colorado where you have guys who can catch the bubble screen and can catch the tunnel screen that you want to get the ball out in space, the Draylons of the world. You've got guys who you may want, like Omarion, you want to get him the ball deep. But having that guy who can run that deep out, having that guy who can run a dig, having that guy who can run that post, having that guy who softens the defense for everyone else, and this guy being a 6'5" target, that's where I think you see the real value in Sincere Brown and why he will help this offense so much. When you talk about somebody who's who's been around a long time, studied in multiple offenses, where you look at what they were running at South Florida, which under Alex Golesh, which is a variation of what they did, the mobster mentality that they have at Tennessee and Josh Heupel's offense, where you run read routes. You basically have to read where the DB is. You're going to be spread out wide as heck. You're going to read where the DB is, and you're going to find spots based on the DB. If the DB is 7 to 10 yards off, then 1,000% you're running a hitch. If they're in that 5 range, then you're going to try to run something. You're going to try to stack them and run your route based off of what that guy, and the closeness and the proximity he is to you in the line of scrimmage. That helps you in so many ways. 1, it teaches you how to sit down in zones because you understand option routing and basically playing off of your route. If you're designed to run a hitch or a stop or a go, understanding what the defense is giving you and knowing if you're supposed to run 9 yards, make it 8. If it's supposed to run 10, make it 13. Those are the nuances of the wide receiver position that you get from what he learned at South Florida, that he gets to put in his bag, that he brought with him to Campbell, that he's going to bring with him to Colorado. When you go look at the highlights, you're going to see plenty of plays. You're going to see, the ball traveling through the air. You're going to see him making big time catches. Another thing that I like, catch and run ability. He had 1 play, 5 broken tackles on 1 play. 5 broken tackles in 1 game against Liberty. Where after the catch, so it wasn't just and these catches were a little bit further down the field. It wasn't just like the bubble screen, but catching the slant and making people miss repeatedly. He's not an easy tackle. Having somebody who can get you that tough slant and run those intermediate routes. Now you want him to clean up those drops on those slants and when he has tight coverage, which I think he will, because as you see, as the ball traveled more in the air and the ball placement, and no disrespect to the Campbell quarterbacks, but the ball placement wasn't the best consistently. I think with this caliber of quarterback, you're going to see a different Sincere Brown, and not even just a different from the perspective of catching the ball, but a better when you have the ball placed on your outside shoulder when it needs to be. The back shoulder throw It's something that he wasn't able to get consistently. But when you look at where he's good, that back shoulder throw, 7, 12, 15, 17, that's something that you'll see that he should be able to take advantage of. All right, forgive me, y'all. I had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but we back. So when you talk about Sincere Brown and when you go watch the highlights, the thing that I like the most about it is once he gets the ball in his hands, he's electric. Even being 6'5", you see that you can clearly see the length, but he's a hard tackle. And we already talked about the tackles that he breaks, but him being able to use his long arms to keep shorter DBs away from him, he reminds me of George Pickens. That's who he puts me in the mind of. Because a lot of times when we see George Pickens, you can see him like you look at what he did in college where they got him the ball quick. That's something that Campbell liked to do. But on those posts and those slants, when you caught George Pickens, he was riding out. And with that long stride, it's hard to make up. Like, you really have to be rolling to catch a guy like that. Also, you saw on his film, and go check it out. Sincere Brown is the YouTube channel, and notice it was posted about 4 months ago. So Buff fans, go show him some love on that. He'll see it. Those notifications do pop up on your YouTube. But you'll see that when it's almost like when he catches the ball, people are he's running at a different speed. You gotta have an angle. I would think that guy's at least a 4.5, if not faster, like easily. Like the way once he gets rolling is you can tell that the Colorado is not only looking for a possession receiver, they're looking for a game breaker, and that's what he is. He's not, when you think 6'5", you think possession. When you think 6'5", you think go up and get it. But he was most effective run after catch. Not just throwing them bombs, but I think being able to use his stride with and I think the most important thing is the accuracy of the quarterback. Him having a guy like Caden Salter, having a guy like Julian Lewis, he hasn't played with anybody of this caliber yet. So when you look at what Caden Salter has been able to do with the deep ball, I think that's really been something I've been looking forward to as the news broke about Sincere even visiting. I was like, man, I could imagine Caden just being able to uncork one and Sincere just being able to run up under it. Also, Julian Lewis, what excites me the most from him throwing to Sincere is, like I said, that post and the ball placement. If you watch Well Off and you watch the pregame and you watch Reach the People, you'll see that the layered throws are what sets Julian apart. Having a 6'5" target running across the middle of the field, that means you could throw it over the linebacker's head. He could snatch it and still keep his stride. And now you put him in a one-on-one situation with a safety. And I'm gonna bet on Sincere in those situations. So I think that this pickup is not only just to help down the field, but it's for those intermediate throws. And another thing too is if you go back and you watch his film, he is very, very creative when the play breaks down. He's not the type of guy who runs his route and says, well, I didn't get the ball, I'm gonna stop working. He works back towards the ball, and when the quarterback is under pressure, that's where they were looking to get the ball to. So I'd say he's a quarterback that fits both styles. I mean, he's a wide receiver that fits both styles of quarterbacks, and also someone who really, in his own right, has NFL aspirations. He has the measurables, and now this is just another sign of Colorado top grading and saying, we know we're good. How do we get great? You bring in guys who want to be great. They're continuing to do this across the board. Offensive line, we're going to talk about Xavier Hill in another video. Bringing in a guy of this caliber tells me that they want to have the best wide receiver room in the Big 12. They want to have the best offensive line room in the Big 12. They want the best quarterback room in the Big 12. They want the best roster in the Big 12. And the way that you build your roster is you bring in as many talented people as possible and you let them fight it out. I know that in such a And this fan base, this is probably a fan base that takes to their players more than I've seen in any other fan base that I've covered. I've covered Georgia, I've covered Auburn, I've covered Florida, Miami, Oklahoma. I've covered all of these teams. I haven't seen a fan base take the players the way that the Colorado fan base has. Whether they're performing or not, this Colorado fan base is special. So while, a lot of people are like, well, why are we bringing in more receivers when you already got so many? In order to go to a championship level, you have to have a championship roster. And all of the rosters that were in the playoffs were capable of providing starters to other teams. That's what Colorado is becoming. That's what Sincere Brown, the signing of Sincere Brown signifies, is that Colorado is looking to get to the next level. And I'm going to tell you something else. Colorado ain't finished that wide receiver. Just got a phone call of a player that said, I just talked, that said that just talked to someone that said that, that may be a landing spot for him. And he was like, what did I think about it? And didn't say anything out of the ordinary. He just said, that could be a potential spot for you. And this guy was absolutely jacked about it. So I think as you continue to see Colorado perform well, you're going to see more and more players want to come to Colorado, even if they have great situations. And I just heard it personally, like, hey, definitely have some interest in Colorado. There's going to be an article that comes out on that probably pretty soon as the transfer portal opens and guys officially enter. You're going to see more. It's going to be a wild week for Colorado. So from what I'm hearing, they aren't finished that wide receiver. I don't think they're finished that offensive line. I don't think they finished that. I don't think they finished anywhere on that roster. I think you could probably see someone added to Colorado's roster at every level. Linebacker room, defensive back room, defensive line room, offensive line room we've already seen, wide receiver room we've already seen. I think you will possibly see that. But it only goes to show you what Colorado is trying to do. And Sincere Brown was just the tip of the iceberg. And what a way to he's actually your second signing recently. We're going to get to Xavier Hill, but man, what a wide receiver. Please go check out his highlights. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you go to and subscribe and turn your notifications on for DukesTheScoop. Last week I was on vacation. I had some things to move around, but this week you're going to see a lot of content. Got some Auburn content coming for you as well. So, hey, man, until the next time, I am out. And thank you for tuning in to The Scoop with Dukes.